What up, Dope Biz Nation? I'm your host, TayBiz. Today we got a very, very special guest here in the nation. We got Maggie, the substitute teacher. We're going to get into a great conversation today. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like this video, share this video. And before we get into it, let's go ahead and look at some viral moments from Maggie, the substitute teacher. Let's go.
I would argue that if an older woman had told this younger lady or any younger lady that this is how boys see you, if you do that, you would act differently if someone had told you that. I think men do a much better job of checking each other because men see themselves in younger men. Women see themselves as younger women. So a man...
Bars. She's good.
To answer the initial question, if my man asked me, it wouldn't even be a conversation because I don't post anything now that he wouldn't approve of. And the only reason that I am on social media is because he's encouraging me to get more of what I do, which is traditional out there. I would say at 27, a hardworking, honest man cannot even compete with the attention that you can get from the volume of men on social media. However, fast forward 20 years, at 47, you would give a limb to have an honest, hardworking man who dedicated his life to you instead of the volume of men who would give you momentary attention online.
I think women start to lower their standards, if ever. At what age?
I didn't want to believe it when I heard Kevin Samuel say 60 because I thought that was so far off. But I really do believe because we have this thing, you know, black don't crack or whatever. I'm still 47. In 3 years, I'll be half 100. I should move differently than someone that's 27. So I would say women mistakenly think I can still compete in that arena, so I shouldn't have to settle. And then you end up in your 50s and 60s alone, and then you say, okay, I'll just be happy to have anyone. Can we clarify that accountability is not the same as an apology?
Right.
Because accountability means that there is a consequence after the action. So either that means, okay, you did that, and because of that, this is the consequence. And I believe that is what men have to deal with. I think a lot of times women think just by saying, I'm sorry, I'm accountable. That is not the same thing. There's 80% of women that are out
Shout
here
out to Maggie,
running
the
the
substitute
street,
teacher.
and then there's a 5 to 10% of men that are taking advantage of that. I reject the idea that the focus should be on the small percentage of men that are running the streets when we have an overabundance of women that are not acting accordingly. I would say let's at least get that down to 5 to 10% of women are running the streets, 5 to 10% of men are running the streets, and then look at them equally. But as long as we have the scale so tipped that women are allowing this, I say, let's clean our own house first before we point the finger.
There's a certain behavior of women that deserves more respect. Of the women, right, like that, one of the ones that comes out is Maggie, the substitute teacher, who's graced us with her presence this past week. You sit and you talk to Maggie for like a little bit. Maggie was up in the kitchen for 12 damn hours. And I'm not saying that you got to be up in the kitchen, but she came into a place that she was unfamiliar with and graced it with feminine ease and presence.
Her influence.
So within feminine ease and presence, guess what? As a man, I am biologically driven to protect that. Biologically.
And she drips it. She just it gracefully it comes off of her. Just afterwards, I went up to her and I was just like, oh my goodness, I love this. I want to be a part of this. What program?
I think women really understand the amount of work and trial and toil and failure and pursuit that a man does before he even shows up to you. So a lot of women think, oh, now you're here, you're going to do my bidding. No, he's already built himself. If you're dealing with a man, now if you're dealing with, a fun boy, you get what you get. So I think that's the first thing. We really don't understand men. We don't understand how hard they work. And the reason why men lead is because they're the ones that are willing to make the sacrifice. If we're really honest with ourselves, we're not. Men are willing to work and give most of it to the family. Most women, we want the big jobs, but we want it for us. It just is what it is. It's not better or worse. Women need to understand that a man is is willing to sacrifice. So that means you also need to be working just as hard. And what are you willing to sacrifice? And it needs to complement each other. I think a lot of women think they're just going to show up and be selected. We have to, like my man says, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. But it is a real job. Every day. And for me, it's an honor, but I think a lot of women don't realize how hard it is. It's worth it, but it's work.
She was cooking. She was spitting. She smoked it. She was cooking. Yeah. Kind of like what you were saying is those strong women back then figured out how to lead without emasculating the man.
What up, TayBiz Nation? What's going on? What's going on? I see the chat is getting lit. Oh, I got a special guest in the chat. My lovely mother is in the chat right now. Shout out to my moms in the chat. Let's go. I'm sorry, y'all. That just touched me right there. I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Well, thank you for watching, Mama. Thank you. I appreciate it. Look at all the people from Biz Nation that is in the building. Look at this love. Look at this love. Everybody is anticipating and waiting for this beautiful conversation that I'm going to be able to have with someone who I think is just awesome in this, I guess, YouTube industry, if you will, or social media industry, if you will. And so you saw the compilation. You saw all of the viral moments that this wonderful lady has had in the last few years, I guess, and probably more. So without any further ado, I don't want to delay the time any further. I want to introduce to some and present to others Maggie the Substitute Teacher. Let's go. Hello.
Hello, TayBiz. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How was your day today? Let's start off with that. How was your day today?
Oh, goodness. I had a good day, mom duties, kids in sports and getting ready for back to school and all of that. And then I'll be cooking after this stream. So always a busy day, but I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am so thankful that you have graced this platform with your presence. Again, I would disclose what I said in private, in public, that I had been wanting to have a conversation with you for such a long time. And seeing you in the shadows and to actually have you in this conversation is literally like a vision that I had in my mind. So thank you so much for being a part of this particular vision that we have here. And so I want to go ahead and just get started with the conversation. Because I know you do have a bit, you're going to be busy after this, so I don't want to delay your time any further. But okay, so I'm going to ask you the age-old question. I know a lot of people have asked you, who is Maggie the Substitute Teacher? How did you get your name? Are you really a substitute teacher? That's what people asked me when I was promoting. It's like, is she a real substitute teacher? Like, come join the stream. You'll see. So unpack that for us real quick.
Well, okay. And thank you so much again for having me. Hello, everyone. I am Maggie, the Substitute Teacher, but my name is Margaret. So Margaret is my name. Maggie is my childhood nickname. So family and very close friends have been calling me Maggie since I was little. And like a lot of us, I've been on a health and wellness journey, especially as we age. If you carry some extra weight, it can cause some issues. And so I just started cooking differently and eating differently. And then I would post what I was making on social media. I started on Facebook, and it was just kind of my way of holding myself accountable. This is what I'm having for dinner. And I have a little knack for presentation. And so people started asking, did you make that? How did you make that? Where'd you get the ingredients? And so I was just responding in the comments. And then I decided, let me just go live and show people what I do, because I do have a cooking channel. So when I decided to start my channel, I was just going to do something simple like cooking with Maggie or Maggie Cook. But my health and wellness journey has me using sugar substitutes dairy substitutes and gluten substitutes in the recipes that I make. So my man actually had the idea and say, that's kind of boring, cooking with Maggie or Maggie can cook. I was like, well, I'm not really creative like that. He said, what about Maggie the Substitute Teacher? You're always forcing these substitutes down. I said, I'm not a real teacher. People are going to think I'm a teacher. I work, but I work in tech. And he said, yeah, but everyone can relate to a substitute teacher. Everyone has had one. So, I fall in line. I said, yes, sir. And Maggie, the Substitute Teacher, was born.
Absolutely. But it's a very, very catchy name, to say the least. I love it, actually. I mean, even just saying it out like Maggie, the Substitute Teacher, you would automatically think like, okay, what do she teach? Like, she teach substitute things when it comes to food. That's awesome. Your live streams are daily live streams that you have? Okay, because I do have your link tree pinned to the chat here on our YouTube channel here, and it's also in the description. But how do you balance that whole thing, doing daily live streams? I know you cook for your boys and things of that nature. So how do you balance that all on a daily basis?
That's really where it comes from, because I really do cook every day. I know a lot of people don't, but I am the daughter of a retired home economics teacher, African immigrant, so very traditional family, nuclear family, and just brought up to, take care of my family and nurture. I remember being young and my mom would say, Maggie, if you do not cook for your children, who will cook for them? So I was like, I'm 11 with Barbies, but okay. And so I don't think I would be successful if this weren't really who I am. So even if I'm not streaming, you'll find me in the kitchen. Like I said, I'm streaming right after this, but I balance it because I've been intentional about rearranging my priorities, especially as I age. All of us age, and I'm, big corporate executive and all of that. But what really sustains me, what lasts the test of time, are the things that aren't gold stars on someone else's bottom line. So I work from home since the pandemic. It's been a wonderful reset for me. And I literally then go into the kitchen.
Awesome. So along with your cooking that you do on a daily basis, I mean, and you are very, very passionate about it, and we share sentiments in that regard, but you're also a femininity coach. Is that the wording? What is that? I've seen it attached to you in this space. So what is that? What is a femininity coach?
I know I'm still trying to answer that too, but no, I will graciously receive it. I have been on my own femininity journey. I didn't realize how masculine I had become, having boys, working in corporate America, working in tech. And so you just take on these tendencies, and then this modern, fast-paced world that we live in really brings out a harshness of women that if we don't check it, we think we compete with men as men. And so, my history, and after 10 years of marriage as a reformed modern woman, unfortunately, the marriage ended. And so now my second relationship, because I did marry young, my second relationship is with a very traditional Southern gentleman who has very high expectations about his lady. And so when I realized that, without telling him, without asking anybody, I enrolled myself, and I continue to take etiquette, elegance, femininity training. And it all started. One day I was actually doing a recipe, and this isn't a wine glass, but I was getting something to drink as I was doing the recipe. And I said, ladies, make sure you hold your stemware by the stem. I learned that in etiquette class. And then I put it down and went on to the recipe. And people were like, what? That's a thing? Tell us more. And it just kind of snowballed into this thing where I started doing like once a week, food mostly, and then a little bit of etiquette content. And then people were asking, do you have a book? Do you have a course? Do you do consults? And everything that I've done in this space has been a response to people asking me. So now I do have all of those in place. And Luke Casely and I host the Finishing School for the Modern Woman, which is an 8-week privately taught course. It's all in the link tree. And I really just love sharing what I've learned on my journey, because it's all about personal development. And now I'm working on a certification and a train the trainer program. But it's just, what people have seen in my change and my growth, and they ask, and I'm happy to share.
Awesome. That's awesome. Look, the fact that you said I enrolled myself in this journey is it shows that you were intentional about learning what's going on. And so when it comes to you say you had developed a little bit of a masculine thing, how did you know when did it come to you to say, I know for sure now, I have actual concrete evidence that I am not in the space I need to be in when it comes to my femininity? When did that actually happen for you? Do you remember?
Well, I don't know if it was a moment in time, but it builds on itself. And I did not feel settled in my own skin, because let's just be honest, we were not built for that. And a lot of times we professional women, we can do the job, we can perform the task. But when you find yourself eating more than you should, choosing bad foods because you're just so stressed out, snapping at the kids, you hear yourself and you're loud and you're harsh, and you just don't like the way you're kind of just moving through life, just, a ball of nerves and stress. For me, it really kind of snowballed, like I said, in the pandemic. I was on my way to another promotion, and then everything shut down and we were sent home for 2 weeks to wait this thing out. And I actually was surprised how much calmer I was. I was cooking. I was, just moving more peacefully. And my man actually told me, he was like, "You sure you want to go back to all of that? I like this version of you. You seem happier this way." And of course, modern woman, I was like, "What? You know who I am, and I have a team and all of that."
Right.
I listen and I learned, and I make mistakes. I don't repeat mistakes. And so I know trying to be competitive in my marriage did not help me. And so also being older, I'll be 50 next year, and realizing you feel yourself naturally slowing down. A lot of younger women don't know what the 40, 50, 60-year-old version of them is going to need. And so now with age and wisdom and experience, I said, you know what? Do I really want to go back into it that hard? And I guess the other thing for me is, I've shared with you privately, I reconnected with someone from childhood that I grew up with. And I remember we were just kind of sitting and talking, and he said, he had these goals, and he can tell you his 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan. He wanted to be one of the Black VPs in Atlanta. And he's just sitting there telling me his vision. And I'm just kind of like, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when I heard him say what his goals were, and I knew I wanted to be with him, and I knew that I didn't qualify yet where I was, I said, wow, he's going to be around women that know how to get on the program. And I want to keep this relationship. So what do I need to do to improve myself? And that's what I started doing. Didn't tell him. He picked up on it. He was like, hey, what have you been up to? And that's kind of what happened.
Awesome. That's awesome. When it comes to femininity, and just in relationships in general, it seems like in this modern time, we're having very a difficulty with communicating with each other when it comes to men and women in our dating culture. It's a lot of dating, just like you said in your viral moment. You got the for the streets people, if you want to call it that, or the ones that like to be out there, and you have the people that's intentional, that really are looking for something that's meaningful long term. And so, what do you see is one of the biggest issues when it comes to men and women, that we just have a hard time connecting with each other?
Oh, goodness.
It's a little bit of a loaded question, but
it is. And I only hesitate because I don't really feel like I have a place to speak to men as a woman. I don't know a man's experience. I have so much respect for men. And I am a boy mom, 2 teenagers, so I can think about what I would tell my sons. My ex-husband and I, we do co-parent really well. The boys actually live with their father now that they're teenagers, and they come and visit me. But what I tell the women is, for me, and I know I'm a relationship girl, and I know I had the example growing up, but I understand not everybody did. And one of the first things that we teach our students in the finishing school is about self-awareness and understanding what you're doing, and not just doing it because everybody is. I don't care that there's hookup culture out here. I don't have to participate. So you have to be willing to go against the grain. You have to be willing to be the only one saying, yeah, that's really not for me. So I think we have misunderstood the purpose of dating. If you want relationship, and I always say, people can do whatever they want to. I know what's important to me, but if you do want a relationship now or later, especially as women, because we don't have the benefit of time, you should only date the caliber of men that you see as long-term marriage husband material. Anything other than that is a waste of time. So if that means you don't have a date every Friday and you don't have a date every Saturday, that's okay. And you wait to actually vet and be vetted by someone who doesn't just give you attention, but he has intentions for you. So you have to be able to separate, like I said in that clip, the fun boys from the serious men. And again, I don't say that makes anybody a bad person. People arrive at different times, but I do think the loudest voices and the behavior that is the example now does not serve us for the long term. It may be trendy, but I think it's very damaging. So I think a lot of women are confused, and then they have their wake up moment. And unfortunately, for a lot of women that I talk to, they have missed their opportunity and wasted their best years.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I want to pause for just 1 second. This is my very first super chat I ever had in my, I really, really appreciate it. I got to give you some air horns. Thank you so much for this, huge contribution. I'm going to officially make this person the sponsor of this chat, this live. I'm just having a speechless day today. I'm sorry. I had some other good news earlier today, so it's just sprinkling down. But thank you so much, BLJ, for coming over to support and to indulge in this conversation with us. So I want to when the communication and the ideology that is being pushed, I guess we could say pushed. It's been like, it's almost like, women and men, we've been lied to, but especially with our women, we've seen how the lies affect them and impact them in a lot of different ways. And I've talked to plenty of women who are a little bit older, and they say, these young ladies don't want to listen to us. These young ladies don't want to, take heed to what we say. So they just don't say anything at all. They just relinquish themselves from even speaking to the young ladies. So first question is, what drives you to continue to talk to the young ladies? And also, do you think that women that are of age should really be a little bit more patient and just be a little bit more in tune with what's going on with the young ladies, so that way they can impart in them the correct things? BLJ is just blessing. Thank you so much again, BLJ, for another $50 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh my God, thank you so much. Yes, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much. But I'm sorry, Maggie.
No, and I have to say thank you, BLJ. BLJ is one of the founding fathers, one of my day one subscribers, and actually one of the founding fathers of the finishing school. I ran the curriculum by the men that I trust because I wanted to make sure that we were creating something that was meaningful. So I'm so glad he's an incredible blessing. Another loaded question. Oh, goodness. I think that we get our own house in order, and then we should make an effort to impart knowledge, but only to those who want and are ready for it. I am not dragging anyone across the finish line. I was telling my man earlier today, not every woman is going to get a man that she admires and respects and will happily submit to, because you know what? Not every man gets a woman that will honor him and be devoted to him. So we have to stop thinking that I don't deserve anything. I am grateful every single day, and I work very hard every single day to encourage my man to continue to choose me. And so far, I'm doing good. Well, so yes, but I think, especially as an older woman, this is just how things have worked for hundreds of years. The older do teach the young, right? The older men will take the young boys off and show. My ex-husband shows the boys I don't know what they do, and it's not for me to know. And the older women would take the younger women and coach them as well. I think as we get older, there's something in us that should want to impart that knowledge. However, like I said in that clip, older women don't have their house in order. So most of us are not in a position where we can be the example. And let's face it, the younger women are like, I don't want your life. So we're at an impasse. So I do put some responsibility on us. But yes, absolutely. Younger women have to seek it out. And so that's why, I make the content that I do, but what we teach, the coaching, the courses that I do, you have to opt into that, because everybody gets there on their own timeline. Even me, I've shared my story. I wasn't ready until I was ready. But we take the consequences that come along with that delayed decision. It could be a failed marriage. It could be you blew it with the one opportunity that you had. It could be some really bad choices, but that's life. And we have to start treating women like the adults they are.
Right. It's about holding ourselves accountable. Like you said, the self-awareness, which is a part of that emotional intelligence that we all need to have, men and women alike. When it comes to like the discussion of relationships, a lot of people, we got a lot of podcasts about relationships and things like that, but it's still a topic that has not reached its fullness, because the relationships have been broken up for so many years over the years. How important is it to still talk about relationships, and how important is relationships in general?
Relationships are everything. I'm sorry. I have a lot of accomplishments on paper. They pale in comparison to the joy and the pride that I feel taking care of my loved ones, my family, my children, my man. I've seen that comment before. Oh, the same talking points. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, relationships are going to be a part of our lives forever. I mean, the late, great Kevin Samuel said, we are better together. And I believe that. Now, unless you want to really live as an island, I don't believe any man is an island or woman, but unless you really just want to leave me alone and be that way, to the bitter end, I think relationships and the relationship conversation is here to stay.
Yeah. It's never going to go anywhere. I don't think it is. I mean, because it's still that thing that we're still constantly working on. Like you said, the self-awareness piece is one of the most important parts of a relationship, And so, so in that self-awareness, what should, if anything, what should young ladies look for when it comes to a mate, choosing a man that's going to be exactly who he say he is, and treat her in the way that she is awarded to be treated? What should women look for now? I mean, and again, I know it depends on the person subjectively in a sense, but what should women look for in a man?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts before women start looking. I would argue women shouldn't look as much as they do. I think women should be found, my opinion. But the family of origin is so important. The example that you see, the way my mom treated my dad when he came home from work, she didn't teach me, but when we would run up to him, dad, 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 and she would kind of say, nope, let your dad rest, let him change, let him, you just learn things by your upbringing, good and bad. So again, to the self-awareness, if you know you didn't have that upbringing, and if you know you didn't have that example, then you have to seek it out, and you need to surround yourself with other women who are in the types of relationships, happy relationships, that you want to aspire to. I think also women need, not only do we need men, but you do need men in your life to help you vet. Fortunately or unfortunately, as emotional creatures, and I love that part of being a woman, but when it comes to big life decisions, I still reach out to my dad or my man about, financial decisions with the boys, health decisions. I think you should have, if not a father, a brother, an uncle, a mentor, somebody that you can run your prospect by, because men, like I said in that clip, men check each other, and men can sniff things out that we women sometimes it's just like, oh, but he's so cute. That doesn't matter when there's serious life to be dealt with. So I would just say, again, to the self-awareness, you need to ask yourself, do I want to be a wife? And I accept not everybody does, because a wife is a job. Just like Kevin Samuel said, a wife is a role. It's not a dress. It's not a party. It's not a picture on Instagram. It's not a trip to the Caribbean or Tahiti or wherever. It is a lifelong job. Do you want that?
Right.
If you do want that, what kind of wife do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of wife that has, a husband that works with his hands and, just provides and, protects? Do you want, to be, I don't know, a military wife? He's gone for months at a time and you hold down the fort. Like, where does your skill set serve you? I'll speak for myself. I know that I want to be the type of wife and mother Kool-Aid mom, right? I want to be that warm and welcoming place where the kids, come, or the grandkids eventually. And I love family dinners and kind of having that nightly routine. So once you know what kind of wife you want to be, if you want to be a wife, then you need to start thinking about, okay, what type of husband complements the type of wife that I would be the best at. I know this about myself. I would not do well being alone for months at a time, and my husband was traveling, he's a musician or whatever. I would not be the best version of myself to that type of man. Doesn't make him a bad person or me a bad person. So once you know your strengths and how you want to serve as a wife, then you start looking for those complementary characteristics in the men that approach you, assuming they approach you. And you also have to know what they are looking for in a wife. And just like I did, customize yourself and sharpen those areas that you need to tighten up on. And so if you do it with intention, because I believe the purpose of dating is to determine if this is a suitable match for marriage or long term. It's not because I'm bored on a Friday. It's not because there's a new restaurant out and I can't afford to take myself. It's not because any of that. You're wasting your time. You will have all of that on the back end with the man who's emotionally invested in you. So I think you look for those characteristics, and when you think you've got one, or you think one is pursuing you, then you bring him to your trusted male counterparts, friends, uncles, and have that conversation. And I think we need to have that conversation early, but I think you need to lead with what you want as a woman and carry that out. You can't just say, I want to be a wife, and then every time we turn around,
it doesn't work that way. Bitter and sweet can't come out the same fountain. So, but you said something interesting about a woman. You believe that a woman should not necessarily be looking, but should be found. So when I hear the word found, I'm hearing the word preparation, preparing yourself. So what are some of the things that women can do that have just like you say, you were a testament to having that hardness about you a little bit, that little bit of that little masculinity, a little bit of like what can exactly, like what can some women do to say to the ones that are actually intentional about themselves, they do to, I guess, get rid of that particular part?
Yeah, I mean, of course, shameless plug, I mean, I do have a course, but it's so much more than that. I think conversations, you talked about communication earlier. We don't talk to each other. And if we do talk to each other, it's not to actually glean information. I think you surround yourself, like I said, with women that are in the type of relationships that you want to be. And, it's not the 1950s anymore. We work with men, we see men at church or, at events. If you see a man that's the caliber of man that you kind of like, yeah, somebody like him, or you happen to have, opportunity to pick his brain, I would open up my mouth and say, do you have 5 minutes? I seem to really be struggling, and you seem to have a lot of success in this area. What was it about your wife or your lady? And listen, I don't think it's as difficult as we make it to be. I think the men have been saying it, but we are stubborn and we don't want to believe it. We want to do our own thing and then have the men get on our program. That is not going to work. A masculine man has built the life that he wants for himself. And if you want to be with him, you adjust yourself to his lifestyle, or you can be by yourself. That's an option too. So I think you ask men, and then you do what they say. If you want to be with a man, I'm sorry, I get in trouble for this, but we know how to get on the program when we want to get in that big school, and they say, these are the grades that you need, and these are the courses that you need to take, and this is the volunteer hours you need to do. You sure do figure out how to do that. When you want that big job or that big promotion, and they say you need international experience, you need to be multilingual, you need to have these certifications, we know how to do that. But then we want to sit on our hands when it comes to a man who could change your life for life, because I don't think we realize how a lot of these accomplishments, they're wonderful. I've had them all, but they are momentary, believe me. So surrounding yourself, asking questions, and then implementing and getting that continuous feedback.
It's well, that's listen, look, I gotta just go ahead and just do it real quick. I mean, you're just spitting all the good stuff out here. You're just spitting all the good stuff. We are talking to Maggie the Substitute Teacher, and we are getting some understanding and some insight about dating culture, relationship, femininity coaching, and all the good stuff that we need to go through in order to become the best versions of ourselves. It takes time, for a person to realize, hey, I think I'm in the wrong space. I think I'm in the wrong, in the wrong box, if you will. And do you find it difficult when you do talk to people? Do you find it difficult for them to grasp hold of this traditional, I would say, virtuous approach that you have to a relationship? Because to be honest with you, you mentioned the late great Kevin Samuels. You're right, you mentioned him, and the name Kevin Samuels alone just makes people go, "Oh, she's one of those. She's a Samuelite or whatever you want to call it," right? And so it's like, and a lot of people don't know how to eat the fish and spit out the bones anymore. They just want to consume everything at one time and not do any work for it. So do you find it difficult for women to grasp hold of this traditional virtuous approach that you have to relationships and just to femininity in general?
Yes and no. And by that, I mean, I don't talk to the women who aren't ready. I leave them right where they are. And I think the men should do the same, respectfully. I don't think you drag anyone screaming into the night, because they will just tear down what you have built. It's one of those moments where you have to say, okay, I know I'm not getting the results that I want. I have to change. And then people seek out the help. I'm here for the help seekers, just like I'll put myself on the hot seat, when it comes to weight loss and, trying to eat healthy. You cannot tell people, put that biscuit down. Like, they have to get there on their own and say, you know what, I'm sick of this, and I'm ready, and I'm serious, and I'm looking for a program that I can follow. So I think a lot of times we really don't have to say anything. If you just live your life and people notice the respect that you get, the joy that you have, the consistency that you have. Like you said, you've been watching me for a couple of years. A lot of people tell me that because they don't know what to make of me. Like, is this kind of a fake, or they see how you are in your relationship if you see me in person, or even the way that I talk about my man. I think, like I said in the beginning, a lot of it is a response to, women asking. Now, if you don't open up your mouth and ask, that's fine too. You get what you get. So if I were to try and convince someone, it would be, a wrestling match. I'm not doing that. No.
Right.
But for the women that are ready, for the women that want something different, and maybe they didn't have a mother who taught them, maybe they've never seen it, maybe they don't know where to begin, I can definitely help those.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing I was going to ask about, that is that, a lot of times a lot of people just haven't seen a healthy household, in a sense. It's been broken in some type of way. Do you find that often, that a lot of women have come from broken homes as well, and that's one of the reasons why they can't really grasp hold of this concept?
Yes, and it's unfortunate. A little disclaimer: I'm not the only type of wife. I never say that you have to be the way that I am. I am the way that my man needs me to be. So that's what I do. So you pick and choose, like you said, eat the meat and spit out the bones. But yes, unfortunately, a lot of women did not see the example. Number two, a lot of women have gotten that, I've heard it called modern woman programming, either from female coworkers or the gossip in the hair salon, or their mothers or aunties or bitter older women in their life who, instead of saying, don't make the same mistakes I did, they're saying, nah, you'll be all right. You don't need a man, what
Right.
they go after something, and they crash out.
Yeah.
I'm always going to put the accountability on women. I really believe all of us, we're going to meet that one day. And I hope that the women are prepared. Most of them are not. That's why we have the results that we have, unfortunately. But I think that women do have to seek it out, because I'm not cutting any slack. I see so many hair and makeup tutorials, dance tutorials. We do what we want to do. So
Exactly.
that's where I'm at.
Exactly. We do what we want to do. We can practice other things, dance moves, or if you're an athlete, you can do all the practice, but we don't want to practice working on ourselves. We don't want to practice working on our patience, working on our interests, working on our brokenness, or whatever the case may be. If you are tuning in, we are talking to Maggie the Substitute Teacher. And if you have any questions for her, please go ahead and put it in the chat. I'll be able to bring the question up to her attention, and just put her name, put Maggie in front, and then that way I can distinctively know that it's specifically for her. There is again, I'm going back to the Kevin Samuels thing.
Sure.
Do you I have to ask this because it's just on my mind. Do you get flack from women because you have a revere for Mr. Samuels? I mean, it's not like you just admire what he was about, what he stood for, and so do you get flack from women a lot of times with that? Like, do they look at you, throw their nose at you like, ugh?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's not as bad as it could be, or maybe I just do not care. But yes, I've been called a pick-me. I've been called a mammy. I've been called, she said Kevin Samuels, the women tune out. Totally fine. I think that's part of it too. Like, I am not here to wrestle you to the ground. If you want a hot girl summer, but don't complain when your, options are few and far between because of, no man wants that. So for me, Kevin Samuels, I had the same visceral reaction when I heard average at that. I'm not even gonna lie. I have a little story about when I first came up in my feed, and I was actually in the shower, and I remember like looking out, like, what did he just say? And I remember asking my man, I said, have you heard about this guy, Kevin Samuels? He's like, oh yeah, he's been giving it to the men for years. And so it was like a train wreck, right? It's like you didn't want to hear, but you couldn't help it. Like I would ninja watch, I was tuning in, and I just could not believe these women. But there was a drumbeat that I just couldn't get away from, because to me, what he was saying was common sense. And because I have a very masculine father, I know how men are straight shooters. They're just going to tell you whether forget your feelings. And so what he was saying was not foreign to me, but the way the women responded, like he should just be sent out to pasture. I was like, wow, this is really bad. So whenever I heard him say, where are the older women to teach the young? My heart just broke, because Kevin often said, you know, the happy ones are quiet. The good ones are quiet. And that is true. I would be over here in my cul-de-sac, minding my business, with my apron on, like, don't bother me, I won't bother you. But I think because I have boys, and I do have a heart for younger women, because I see myself in a lot of these women just going down the wrong path. And so I booked a session with him, and I talked to him one-on-one. And I will say, one-on-one, he is the same person, but he was trying to rattle our cages on his show. He wasn't, you know, like, what's your size, like right out of the gate. And I had an idea about putting something together in his Patreon for the women that were interested in something different. I really think we are out here. I think there are more women that want something that's going to last, want a real relationship, but the ones that have the megaphone are, you know, perpetrating this horrible behavior. And now it looks like all of us are like that, and we are not.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree. I am, listen, I have someone in my life that is just, I'm no replacing. It is just, I love it, love our relationship. It's healthy. We practice effective communication all the time, and we work with each other, and we work well with each other, you know, and we encourage each other. And that's what it's about. It's about the connection, you know, the connection. I'm going to go to the chat real quick, because I do see some questions here. So Chill says, Maggie, to the women who are in preparation, how does she really know she is prepared to be a wife?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, first thing, yes, being a wife is a job, but give yourself some grace that we are always getting better. I'm learning things about my man all the time. So don't put pressure on yourself that it's like, okay, I'm fully done once I can do this, and this. I think when you have addressed whatever issues or failures you've had from the past, when you are happily and ready to willingly submit, when you look forward to serving your husband and helping him achieve his goals, when you are when you look forward to it more than you want other things. I think a lot of women are kind of like, yeah, I'll get around to it one day. Because we don't do the proposing unless you want to buy a ring and get a man on your program. We really have to be ready when the man is ready. And that's where it's kind of like, you know, for us. But I think when you know the type of wife that you want to be, and you have the basics in place, and you are ready on day one to be a helpmate, if that's what, you know, the type of wife that you want to be, and you're open and you're coachable, because all of us are going to customize ourselves for our man, and it should be that way. There's going to be some things you're going to have to figure out, but you know, I was a young bride. I was married at 25, and if I'm so fortunate to remarry again, you know, I'll go in it good faith effort, give it my best. If I get any feedback that, you know, hey, I don't like that, absolutely, I can take the feedback and get better.
Absolutely. Awesome. Another question here. Fem Gems for you says, Maggie, do you agree with what the German woman said about modern women? That's controversial if you saw it. And can you and LU do a reaction video?
I did not see, I saw a thumbnail about a German woman said something, but I didn't see it. And I have to be honest. She's asking for me and Lucy to do a reaction video. Maybe. I don't know what was said, so you can share. I am very intentional about what I watch, what I consume. That's a big part of my femininity journey, because what we put in is going to come out. And so I know there's a lot of, tea spilling and gossip and a lot of, salacious content in this space, but
Yeah.
I try to look and listen for things that are helpful. So I don't know, TayBiz, do you know what the German woman said?
I'm not sure. I think I know what German woman she's referring to, but I'm not sure which part. She's been clipped up a lot, actually, this particular lady. So I may have came across it before and I just can't remember it right now. But if you can, Fem Gems for you, if you can, send us a link or something like that, and we can probably take a look at it one day. Like my email, you can send it to taybiztv@gmail.com, and I can share it with Maggie. We can see what you were referring to. Would you say that? And I know it's almost time for us to wrap it up a little bit, if we can. But would you say that the traditional, or like I said, I like to call it virtuous, values that you have, would you say, because they're a little bit biblical, do you think that's a part of the difficulty of receiving it, is the fact that it has some biblical connotation to it as well?
Not if we really believe what we say we believe. In our community, women are some of the first ones, at church ready to celebrate. But you got to take the good with the bad, So I was raised in the church. I am a Christian. I think that is a big part of it, especially the foundation. But it doesn't have to be, because there are women of other faiths that know how to serve their husbands, if that's what you want. But yes, if you believe, the scripture says that we were created as a helpmate for our husbands. So to me, that should be our highest honor. Now, of course, in this modern world, we have so many options, so many career paths. And again, I am someone with big degrees and big job and all of that. But it's biblical, yes, because circling back to your question about, the conversation about relationships, we have been man and woman together since the beginning of time.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of, not just women, but men, we're looking at this little sliver of time of, the modern world, and we're thinking, oh, it's always been this way. And it hasn't. I think, I always say we're not equal, we're equally valued. And when you travel to other countries, or if you actually observe how other people do it, they know, really quickly that we do need each other. So yes, the biblical foundation is good. And I think it's very inspirational, but you can absolutely be a wife to your husband in any faith, but this is my faith.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I've said this before about the fact that, some people say that that's old fashioned. They call it old fashioned and all that kind of stuff and things of that nature. And then when you ask a woman, well, then what type of man do you want? She will describe an old fashioned man.
There you go.
She would describe a man that is supposed to be a provider, a protector, a lover, this, that. He gotta be a poet, a doctor. He gotta be able to do it. He has to be traditional. But you're describing a man that is traditional. You don't even realize that what you actually saying you want is something that's based upon certain principles. And if you have extracted yourself from some of those principles, this is going to be hard for you to get the results that you want. Is there any last words you want to say about this, the femininity movement that is because again, I believe you, there's a lot of women that are like, they're really rethinking things. They're like, you know what? I need to really rethink my approach to just being a woman at this point. So is there any last things you want to say to women about the femininity and how important it is?
Well, Well, first, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely.
I think, like my man says, Maggie, tell the ladies, you're already feminine. You just have to stop fighting it. So a decision has to be made. And I tell our students that if you do nothing, again, the fast paced, modern, competitive world that we live in will make you harsher, will make you louder, will make you more stressed out, will make you more competitive. So you have to be intentional and decide, I want to go a different direction. Now, that being said, I was talking to my femininity coach, and a lot of women are looking at, if you want to call it a femininity movement, like, I just sit back and I'm a passenger princess and I don't do anything and you just, come and serve me. That is not it at all. And that's why I said it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. We're working just as hard as our men, but we're working together and not against each other. So I think you, one, make the decision, two, make the commitment, knowing that it's going to be every day getting incrementally better. You've never arrived. You're never the best chef. You're never the best piano player. You can always get better. And then you have to seek it out and do the work, have an assessment of where you're strong. There's some strengths that I have, and then work on the areas where you are still deficient and get that feedback. Find a community of women that support that. And I think it's here to stay. Unfortunately, I think it will get worse before it gets better, because I think a lot of women are just kicking and screaming and they don't want to believe it's so. And that's fine. Life happens to all of us. I wish that it didn't, but I think that there's going to be a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thank you so much, Maggie, for being a part of this conversation with me. Oh, we have one question that came in late. You have a little support? Okay.
Absolutely. And I have time if you need to continue.
Cool. Awesome. Maggie, how do you define femininity? I might have missed this if you covered it already.
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
Great question.
Yes, I think what we talk about in the course, for me, and I will answer your question, but for me, femininity is returning to who we are and how we were created. I think at our core, we are already feminine. There are some things that come naturally to us as women that unfortunately a lot of us have suppressed. So for me, it was getting back to like, who are you really? What is the best version of Maggie? But when we think about femininity, it's probably defined as those traits, those characteristics that are mostly associated with being a woman. I think it's a wonderful thing. Some women look at it as, you're weak, you're soft, but you don't have femininity without masculinity, just like you have other polar opposites, hot, cold, up, down.
Right.
And I would say femininity is what you naturally feel when you're in front of a masculine man. I don't care what anybody says, when a man is in space. And just like I would assume a man knows when a woman enters the space, you're kind of like, okay, that's a woman. So, but yeah, I think the femininity are the things that are our superpower. I think is the gift that we have, the way that we can soothe the savage beast in our man, the way that we can take ingredients and make a meal. I know men cook too, but I'm just saying the way that we nurture, the way that we love, the way that we build community, the way that we raise children, the way that we support our men. There's so many facets of it, but that's probably what I would define it as. Your best self is
your best self. Absolutely. Rodney O said femininity looks to be a companion versus a competitor to their men. That's a good statement right there.
Absolutely.
I talk about we talked in private about the fact that one of the things that I realized is that with my masculinity being a young man, it had to be nurtured. It had to be pruned, and it had to be cultivated.
Yeah.
And so I have a man in my life named Park Stewart, who been in my life since I was around like 19 years old. Again, my father, he died in 2002. And so and I didn't have like the closeness with him like that. He wasn't really kind of like there in a sense, but I was able to get, ironically, I was able to get closer to him after he passed. It was I understood him more after he passed, and I'm like, because I dug up things about him. I'm like, man, there was so much similarity between he and I. I'm like, man, and he was an older guy too. So I mean, if I had the chance to rock with my dad, I would have been like, yo, I would have picked his brain, you know, I would have picked his brain. But then God sent me somebody named Park Stewart who met me at a crucial time in my life. And so my masculinity needed to be nurtured. And I think that's some of the things with young ladies too, is that your femininity is there. It just needs to be nurtured. It just needs to be cultivated. And like you said, that self-awareness, that willingness to allow that to be cultivated is something that only a woman can make the choice for herself to do that, you know?
Absolutely. And I think the mentorship goes a long way. We talked about that. You know, I'm so grateful I had the mom that I do. You know, she's a matriarch and I learned so much from her. But yes, we need to see it. And we need to see the benefit of it.
Right.
I think that when you see how a feminine woman is treated and respected, you know, you're kind of like, wow, I want some of that. You know, what is it about her? You know, you can kind of watch from afar, or I don't mind it if people ask. But yes, I think also the way a masculine man, just like you were talking about your lady, you know, and I'm sure, you know, what you love about her are not traits that you can do. You know, you love her for who she is to you. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And this goes to, I just pulled this up because we talked about the responsibility here. It says the man is not my responsibility to the femininity of a woman. I mean, and which is again the self-awareness that we referring to. Is like it's literally like, I cannot do this for you. You know, I literally cannot. It's your job. You have to step up and you have to take charge and say, you know what, if I want to get better results, then I need to do some different things. And so that's the whole point of you know, having that self-awareness. That's what makes it great, is that the fact that you have that, you know. So
thank you. And to your point, I think we all have that because, like I said, and I'm very transparent about what I've done right as well as what I've done wrong. And I see where going down that I wouldn't call myself a boss babe, but I did think that my accomplishments mattered in the relationship, but they didn't. And so once I bumped my head and skinned my knee, I got back up. I could go hard in the paint again and, you know, oh, it was his fault, and do the same thing. Or I can really self-assess and say, okay, I don't ever want to go through that again. What do I need to do differently? And I think a lot of women, they have the data, they have the examples. Look at your life, ladies. Either you're in a happy, loving relationship with a man that you admire, or you're not. And if you aren't, instead of just saying, oh, there's no good men or all the other lies out here because we don't really understand men. That's another clip that I had. Start asking yourself, what have I done and what do I continue to do that puts me in the position that I'm in? And again, if you ask men, I think they will tell you it may hurt, but they will tell you may have to sit with that and say, you know what? I got a little bit of a temper. You know what? I'm kind of selfish. You know what? I'm a little bit of a user. And so once you have that information and you see where life has brought you because you've been you this whole time, then you adjust if you want a different outcome. It's not any different from anything else. It could be, I want to get healthy and lose weight. I want to stop spending every time I go out. I want to stop drinking as much. I want to, whatever it is, we have to adjust for the outcomes that we want.
Absolutely. Once again, Maggie the Substitute Teacher, thank you so much for jumping on TayBiz TV. Again, a little fish in a big pond. And I'm so humbly thank you for your time. I want to thank also the sponsor of the live, BLJ, came out of nowhere and just blessed us with a couple of super chats, and I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate this particular conversation. And hopefully, one day we can do this again and dive a little bit deeper into other topics as well. Is that okay?
Absolutely. It's been my
Absolutely.
absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Everybody put Maggie in the chat real quick. Shout out to Maggie. Thank you so much for coming on. All right. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, do you want to say something else?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. So thank you all once again for tuning in and tuning into Maggie the Substitute Teacher. This was something that my mom said, bless you. Thank you, Mama. I appreciate you. My mother all the way from Texas. Maggie in the building. Look at all the love for Maggie. All the love for Maggie. All the love for Maggie. Absolutely. She's a jewel. She's a definite jewel in this space. And I think that this is something that we should definitely continue to have conversations about. We live in a time where it's like highly politically charged, and it's like everybody got their own ideologies, and everybody think they deserve something, and these harsh conversations between men and women. And when it comes to relationships, man, it's like the relationships are so lacking. And so one of the things that create society is relationships, and one of the things that create community is relationships. So I wanted to have Maggie on because I wanted her to express the fact that, from a woman's perspective, that carries a spirit of femininity, of how important it is to have that. And trust me, don't worry, we're gonna have some masculinity on here too. Okay. And again, it's the same as femininity. It's the traits that make you who you are as a woman. And so it's the same thing with masculinity. It's the traits that make us who we are as men. And we're not talking about toxic traits. We're talking about actual good characteristics and traits that make you who you are. So once again, I want to thank everybody for stopping by TayBiz TV. Come on and subscribe to the channel. Here at Biz Nation, we talk about a variety of things, okay? And I love my mods in the chat. They are awesome. I thank you also. I thank you, Abundance. I thank you, Drea. Chill, of course. Deep Peel in the building. My mom's, of course, in the building. My Take, what's up, man? My Take. I appreciate it. And thank you all once again for tuning in to this little humble channel. I appreciate it. And hopefully something was said that brought some clarity if you had some questions, or something that was said that shed some light on some things that was kind of hidden from you. So once again, it's your boy TayBiz, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.